Hi there, my name is Zachariah Buerta. I'm the founder of Flight Art Acting. Doever bloeit de kunst. Through diligence, art blooms. In our previous video, we spoke about the father of South African theatre, Charles Etienne Boniface. And in this video, we're going to speak about the father of contemporary Russian theatre, Nikolay Kolyada. Nikolay was a playwright from Yekaterinburg, Russia. He has written over 145 plays. He ran his own independent theatre, and he founded what was now known as the Ural School of Dramaturgy. He trained an entire generation of Russian playwrights, and in Russian artistic circles, he was known as the Solnce Ruski Dramaturgi, the son of Russian drama. Nikolay was born on December the 4th, 1957 in the village of Presnogorkovka in the Kostanay region of Kazakhstan. At 17, he moved to Sverdlovsk, which is now modern-day Yekaterinburg. He was accepted into the Sverdlovsk Theatre School, and after graduating in the 1970s, he joined the troupe at the Sverdlovsk Academic Drama Theatre, where he worked as an actor whilst beginning to write his own material. In 1982, he published his first short story, Skliska, and in 1985, his first play, The House in the City Center. His breakthrough came in 1987 with the play A Game of Forfeits, which was staged across the Soviet Union, and this followed a series of plays. This was followed by a series of plays which established his reputation within the Russian New Drama movement. This is a movement which focused on natural speech in plays, everyday life, and social realities, aka contemporary theater, contemporary Russian theater. Amongst these works were Slingshot, Merlin Marlowe, Chicken, and critic John Friedman described Kolyada's work as centered on ordinary people, combining stark realism with dark humor and exaggerated and sometimes grotesque elements. A key moment in Kolyada's career came in 1989 when Slingshot was staged in San Diego by the Roman director Roman Vityuk. From there, Kolyada's work was translated and performed in Germany, Poland, France, UK, US, and this established him as one of the most widely staged contemporary Russian playwrights of his generation. After working in Hamburg and Stuttgart in the 1990s, he returned to Russia. Kolyada began teaching in 1994 at the Yekaterinburg State Theatre Institute, and this is where he created the specialized dramaturgy course, which now is known as the Ural School of Dramaturgy. Through his work, he has trained a whole generation of Russian playwrights whose works are now performed and staged internationally. By the 1990s, Kolyada had established himself as a central figure in contemporary Russian theatre, but not only as a playwright, but also as a teacher and a mentor and a cultural organizer. All of these activities led to the next major step in his career when he, in 2001, founded the independent Kolyada Theater. Now, I had the wonderful privilege of interviewing Nikolay Kolyada the 29th of May 2023 in Yekaterinburg. My wife and I were in Yekaterinburg to fetch our cat, and at the same time I had a deep desire to speak to Russian actors and learn about their lives, how they rehearse, and what it means to work in Russian theater. So I contacted an actor friend in Yekaterinburg. I told him that I want to make a documentary. We borrowed a camera, and I went in guerrilla style with the help of some family members and friends, and we watched plays, we observed theater and rehearsals, and then we interviewed the actors. Most of the interviews I translated when I got back to South Africa, And it was during this time that I went to the Kolyada Theater. When I was there, I interviewed one of the Kolyada troupe actors, Konstantin Itunen. I documented and observed his rehearsal in the morning for a play, and then I filmed his performance in the evening in the Kolyada adaptation of Nikolay Gogol's Zhenitba, The Marriage. This was my first experience watching Russian theater. It completely changed my understanding of what theater could be. And after that performance, news traveled fast to Kolyada, and then I was invited to interview him. Now, I want to be clear. I had no idea who he was. I had no idea who I was exactly about to meet, his reputation, his achievements. All I knew was the director of the first Russian play I had ever seen, a play that had completely changed my life. This director wanted to meet me. And I was nervous and I was unprepared, and I was a naive foreigner with a small understanding of Russian culture, but I understood enough from articles and interviews and stories from actors who had trained in Russia that, and of course my wife, that there is a hierarchy in this world, and the masters of theater and directors at this level, they don't usually take their time to speak to visiting actors from foreign countries with no credentials or reputation whatsoever. It just doesn't really happen. But there I was, a foreigner who calls himself an actor, sitting in front of the master of theater and dramaturgy, trying to ask him questions that I was struggling to articulate. I was fumbling with my phone dictaphone. I was stumbling over my words. Alexei, my actor friend who helped translate the discussion, he carefully tried to translate what I was saying. All in all, it was pretty nerve-wracking, but Nikolay Kolyada had a very calm patience. He was very humble. He took his time to listen to my questions. He told me not to be nervous. He doesn't bite. And he started asking me questions. He asked me where I was from. Why was I in Yekaterinburg? How did I end up in his theater? How did I travel from South Africa to Yekaterinburg? And he was genuinely curious as to why a foreigner was in his city and not in Moscow or in St. Petersburg. And then after we found the rhythm, after 10 minutes of Alexei translating and us conversing, he began to answer the questions that I was trying to ask him. First, we spoke about his interpretation of Nikolay Gogol's play The Marriage. Then we spoke about his craft as a director. Then we spoke about the psychology of the audience. And it is this part of the interview where Kolyada stands up and he shows me the screen, and there is a live feed of the current performance of that evening. Also a Gogol play, Inspector General. And the actors are throwing mud at each other. And this is the part of the interview that I want to show you, because I feel Kolyada explained the Kolyada theater better than I ever could. Thus, I am going to show you this part of the interview, and then afterwards provide some context where necessary.
Ой,
Прошу прощения, мне надо
yes, keep an eye on the performance.
Там идет,
That's what the cameras were for.
там идет ревизор сейчас, сегодня как раз Гоголь, тоже Гоголь.
Also Gogol.
И там настоящая грязь на сцене.
And there is a real mud.
Oh,
Вся сцена будет в грязи.
So the whole stage will be
full of mud.
full of mud.
И мы первый ряд, видишь, вот прикрыли пленкой, чтобы эта грязь не попала.
Так не сидите весь спектакль. Ну мало ли, а вот Наталья в белом пришла, как хорошо, да?
Этот спектакль мы играем 18 лет.
this play is going for 18 years.
8 years.
18.
18 лет. И исполнители главных ролей остались живы еще, здоровы.
And main performers are still alive and still.
So,
Знаешь? А?
18 years performance of one play, same performers. That's not, we don't have something like that in South
В
Africa.
Южной Африке такое вообще невозможно, что спектакль идет 18 лет, и там те же актеры.
У нас сегодня 33-35 градусов жары, как в Южной Африке. А мы продали в понедельник 90 билетов в зале на 120 мест. Понимаешь, для меня, как для директора театра, Господи, слава тебе, Господи, вот прямо радуюсь.
Мои выдающиеся артисты играют для вас великую пьесу «Ревизор». Спасибо большое.
Мне надо выдавать зарплату людям скоро, послезавтра. Надо выдать деньги. У меня частный театр. Мы не государственный, мы не получаем деньги от государства. В театре работает 70 человек.
There are 70 people working in theater.
И всем надо платить зарплату. И очень прилично.
And everybody must be paid and paid good.
And the same actors work for Nikolay for decades.
И эти же самые актеры работают с вами уже
Да, да. Но театру 21 год. Но когда мы начинали, нас было 15 человек всего.
When they started, there was only 15,
А теперь 70.
and now there are 7.
Но мы объехали весь мир. Только в Южной Африке не были, а так везде были. Были 10 раз во Франции, в Румынии, Болгарии, Венгрии, Израиле. Мы везде были, все объездили. И этот спектакль мы возили, не знаю, везде, по всему миру.
Because the actors work as a troupe together, it's interesting for me, the concept of ensemble, troupe, Rijkerskammer, all these terms of like acting groups over the centuries, Shakespeare, Stanislavski. Does it help with the performance that the actors are so like working together for so long? Does it help the performance?
Как вы считаете, как это вот отражается вообще на спектаклях, на прочем, да? Потому что в Южной Африке это больше собрались, сыграли, разъехались, а вот тут именно как труппа на протяжении долгого времени.
Да. Как это сделать? Надо увлечь артистов. Прежде всего, интересной работой, а потом деньгами. Очень просто. Мы играем в месяц 60-70 спектаклей. У нас 2 сцены.
So there is a 2 stages, and they play from 60 to 70 plays a month.
Да, вот сейчас вот там спектакль и там спектакль.
So because of the need to finance to keep the theater alive and to pay the actors, it is a constant, like almost watching a television show. It's like the Kolyada Theater television show. Every night is a different play, but it's a performance again.
То есть это в итоге получается как телевидение Николая Коляды, ну, в театральном плане, потому что из-за того, что надо зарабатывать деньги, надо постоянно играть.
Да.
Yes.
Но мало того, надо еще придумывать всякие разные формы, чтобы привлечь публику. У меня есть фестиваль, который называется Kolyada Plays. Он будет с 20 по 30 июня. 30 театров приедут сюда и будут играть спектакли по пьесам моих учеников, бывших выпускников театрального института, драматургов. Я учу пьесы писать людей. У меня есть конкурс драматургов, который называется «Евразия». У меня есть субтеатр такой. У нас был там театр в Бойлине, калейдоскоп театр, киноколяда. У нас куча проектов, которые мы придумали для того, чтобы привлекать публику.
Our conversation turned into an hour discussion surrounding a myriad of wider themes. The difference between Russian and Western theater, the contrast between intellectual analysis and emotional experience in performance. We spoke about Kolyada's writing and what types of stories he focused on. We spoke about South African contemporary theatre. All these are great themes that deserve dedicated time to edit and beautifully craft and carefully translate for theatre practitioners and actors in South Africa and in the world. But I want us to just take a look at what Kolyada said in this segment and contextualize it just a bit further so that the audience and listeners can understand the Kolyada theater in greater depth. In this interview, I made the observation, after hearing that there are 60 to 70 performances a month, that Kolyada has more productions than Shakespeare. Kolyada then mentioned that he was often referred to as the Yekaterinburg Shakespeare. In fact, at this moment, if you go to the website uralplays.ru, you will see that Nikolay has published 157 plays. People also call them the Yekaterinburg Lopa de Vega. Who's Lopa de Vega, I asked. And then Kolyada mentioned that Lopa de Vega is a playwright from Spain who wrote about 2,000 plays, and I act surprised, to which he took a bit of offense, and then he said, "You don't know Lopa de Vega, you shameless person." Who? Now, I am no expert in theater or playwriting, and nor am I proficient in Russian, so I would be unable to describe to you exactly what makes a Kolyada play a Kolyada play. What is his signature style of performance? What is the character arc development? And compare that to other Russian contemporary theater plays. I am first and foremost an actor, and I love to read and write and translate stories. I was able, though, to watch Kolyada's plays back in South Africa by going on Kolyada's social media, because he had used his YouTube and then his Vkontakte, Russian Facebook, as an archive for his past and present plays, his rehearsals, as well as his Russian TV interviews. Kolyada shared his performances on social media because, I quote, "I upload performances to the internet because people will watch, and if something captivates them, later they'll want to experience it in the auditorium. The air is different there, and the sensations are completely different." So here's my observations about the Kolyada Theater after watching Женитьба, The Marriage live, and then also watching performance recordings of Rezivor, which is the play that was performing the evening that I met him, Inspector General, Hamlet, Gamlet, King Lear, Karol Lear, Anna Karenina, famous Russian story, and then comparing that to other Russian contemporary theater performances that I had watched online. Now, Kolyada uses the same actors in the troupe for 20 plus years. And based on the interview that I had with Konstantin Iternen, there isn't a hierarchy in this troupe. There isn't specifically your lead actors and your character actors. Some days you're in the background, some days you have a lead role. And the Kolyada Theater is a tight-knit ensemble collective spirit. I would remind you of the video that I made talking about Stanislavski and the Moscow Art Theater being inspired by the German ensemble theater companies, that they too were founded on an ethos that there are no lead characters or lead actors. We're all the same. So the Kolyada Theater takes that a bit further. And in one of the memoriam articles that I read about Nikolay Kolyada, the writer wrote that Kolyada bought apartments on top of the theater for the most deserving actors. Now, there are, in their 60 to 70 shows a month, in my observation, a list of noticeable actors from who are leads, but from the productions of the 2000s. Of course, I mentioned the actor whom I interviewed, Konstantin Iternen. Then there is Tamara Zemina. Oleg Yagodan, Sergei Fedorov, Anton Makushin, Alexander Kuchik, Yevgeny Chisyakov, and many more. There's a whole list of actors. You can go on their website and see. Most of these actors have been permanent members of the Kolyada Theater since 2004. Now, Kolyada plays are musically driven. There is a lot of choreography. The performance is both entertaining for both actors and audience members alike, but it's not choreographed like triple act Broadway performances, though 12 Chairs it's at that level. It's very entertaining. There are a lot of actors on stage, 20 to 30 of them. The actors, sometimes it feels like they are props or just part of the stage. It's so alive. And the stage gets its use and abuse every single evening. They're really using that stage. And there's two stages, on the one side, on the other side, and most of the evenings, both stages are being used. And it's not a Bolshoi stage, it is a Malinki stage or Mali stage. So it's kind of small, 120 seater, and I think a bit less in the other side of the theater. Now, Kolyada also played in some of the productions. I watched the King Lear performance, most recently the 12 Chairs performance. It's like a Kolyada television show, like I mentioned in the interview. Now, Kolyada explained that he understands audience psychology, how the people come to the theater after work. They had a bit of cognac to drink. They are prone to falling asleep. And he uses this, and this contributes to his production style. That's why the plays are so alive. Now, watching a foreign language play and being engaged in the whole performance, start to finish, my focus is not broken. I find that absolutely fascinating, especially since it's also Russian theater. The life on the stage, the transformation of the characters and their arc, and also the transformation that you as the audience member, you feel. The experiencing of the actors on stage and the audience with them. It's like how my Russian aunt explained, the audience goes to Russian theater to feed their soul. So deep, absolutely deep. The experiencing of life on stage that the audience feels with the actor is a clear example of Russian theater. Let me say that again. The experiencing of life on stage that the audience feels with the actor, that is a clear example of Russian theater. And I asked Kolyada how 100 years later, drawing a parallel between the Moscow Art Theater, 2023, 1924, watching a play in a language that I don't understand, I'm experiencing this euphoric going to church, experiencing Berzhovania, this amazing play, feeling, sensation. What is this magic? What is it that the Russian theater has that the rest of the world still does not have? And Kolyada explained to me that in the last 30 years, theater has now started moving to a more German system. This is where you try to go from the brain and then understand with the heart. Whereas in Russia, it is the opposite. It is the art of experiencing from the heart. He gave an example where he staged a production in Essen, Germany. During a rehearsal, he explained for a very long time this German actress where she should cry. This German actress told him to stop because before she should cry, she should understand everything with her head first. But then Kolyada said, if you tell a Russian actress to cry, she will just sob her eyes out. And that is the difference. In that is the Stanislavski system. The art of experiencing. not to show, but to feel. And to which I answered, well, that's exactly what I was experiencing. The feelings of the players playing together, them having this experiencing there in this play, and I'm feeling with them. And it didn't go from my head and then to my heart. No, it just came from my heart, this experiencing. If you take a look at the longevity of the Kolyada Theater with its 150-something plays, 70 productions a month, 20 plus years of existence, it persists not because it is great, but because it has to. A play in Russia can live for years. It can live even for decades. Most of the Kolyada plays have been existing for 2 decades. But in the case of the Kolyada Theater, it is not state-funded. It's an independent private theater. In Russia, the norm is that theater is funded by the state. That's a beautiful thing, actually. But Kolyada is the exception. It's not funded by the state. So, there always has to be a new play worth coming back to. Kolyada said, we, Kolyada Theater, are not bound by conventions. If a performance doesn't work, we abandon it or we premiere it in a month. State theaters don't rush because their salaries are guaranteed. But we rehearse day and night so that the actors don't have to eat instant noodles. Doshurak. It is this constant necessity to write, direct, perform, teach, create that propelled Kolyada to write plays, direct plays, act in plays, create festivals, competitions, new formats, anything to bring the people to the theater. He created the Kolyada Plays Festival, 20 to 30 June. This is where theaters from across Russia and the world come to play his plays in the Kolyada Theater. Playwriting competitions like Eurasia, where he helped found the renowned Ural School of Dramaturgy School. This drive to bring people to the theater and pay the salaries of 70 plus people who produce and perform 70 to 60 productions a month to keep this wheel turning defined Nikolay Kolyada. And on March the 2nd, 2026, Nikolay died. He was 68 years old. He had been seriously ill with double pneumonia. He was in the hospital a week before, but he didn't stay. He escaped. That's his personality. To finish the production of the play Orpheus Descends into Hell. Unfortunately, his body gave out. He went into sepsis, was in a coma, and then died a few days later. But what is most striking about his death is that he already knew how it would happen. Old age won't catch me at home. I'm on the road. I'm on my way. I'll die at the rehearsal. He didn't die at the rehearsal, but from the rehearsal he went to the hospital. Yes. This is the first Russian director that I spoke to from the first Russian play that I watched. And he gifted me this book. It's called Beri Napomni, Take It But Remember. And on top of it is Nikolay with his cat Zhebaika on the 5th floor just above the Kolyada Theater. He signed me this book and he told me good health and happiness. Спасибо вам большое, Kolyada.